quickly start our conversation. First things first, a wonderful again morning, afternoon, or again evening, depending on where everyone is. To answer that, actually, I would love to kind of like know where everyone is connecting from. So I'm curious, quickly type on the chat, which country are you currently connecting from? Some saying or good evening. So some say good afternoon. So where are you currently connecting from? We have someone from Abu Dhabi. There you go. We have someone from Saudi, UAE. There you go. Dubai. Perfect. Perfect. Al Ain. Ooh, Al Ain. Someone connecting from India as well. UAE. Got it. Sharjah. Okay. So we have Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Al Ain. What are we missing? Umm Quain. There you go. Anyone from that part? Al Ain. There you go. Perfect. Perfect. Got it. Got it. Got it. It's a pleasure to have you all with us this evening. We are thrilled to have such a diverse and engaged audience with us for today. Keep using the chat. I'll be reading that throughout our conversation. And for that, pleased to meet all of you. I'm sure some of you may already have known me or have spoken to me before, but for those who have not, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John. I'm one of the admission advisors for International Teachers University. I have been privileged to transform the careers of over 3,000 teachers through specialized mentoring within Sarasa. Okay, you can call me John. I'm honored to be also joined by a distinguished group of guests. I'll introduce them later down the line, bringing their unique insights when it comes to the field of education. So our topic for our panel discussion for today is how to keep your teaching skills relevant when it comes to the modern classroom. Yeah, perfect. Got it. Now, in that case, I want to also, I want everybody here to use the chat as well. Quickly type in the chat. I just want to get your insight on this. As a teacher, right? As a teacher, what's uh, you know, there you go. Okay. So as a teacher, what's one skill you wish you have learned earlier in your teaching career? Right. Just a quick thing that you use. You can type in the chat. What's one thing you've uh you've always wish you've learned earlier when it comes to your teaching career? Differentiation. There you go. Differentiation is quite important. Definitely one of the biggest thing. Differentiation. It's gonna make or break your classroom as most of the time. AFL strategies. Okay. Any other thing? Presentation skill. So it could be a hard pedagogy. It could be soft skill. Could be anything that you've learned. Oh, you know what? I should have worked on this earlier when it comes to my career. AI is a big thing as well. Technology, that's part of it. Most important skill is behavioral management. Definitely, definitely. Right. Thank you for your answers on that. So, in general, right? Let people in. Okay, so in general, teaching has always been about impact. It's about shaping the minds of people, your students, sparking curiosity, changing lives. But the way we create that impact, it has transformed. A decade ago, a skilled teacher was someone who could deliver an engaging classroom, manage a classroom, engage a lesson, and grade efficiently. Today, that's just the baseline, right? Teachers are expected to design personalized learning experience, master new technologies, nurture creativity, critical thinking, and solve problems in the moment, all while maintaining connection and care. And here's a hard pill to swallow. This is the truth. Most of us weren't trained for this. We're not trained for this. But the skills gap isn't about trying harder. It's not about going at it as hard as you can. It's about the world changing faster than our training keeps up. So today we're exploring three things. What skills are actually missing? How can you build them quickly? And how do you keep learning without burning out? This is important. The future of education isn't just about what you know, it's about how you teach, how you lead, and how you inspire the next generation to do the same. So, to answer the questions that I have mentioned, I'm happy to introduce our panelists this evening. Please join me in welcoming our first panel. Our first panel, I'm excited to introduce our first panel. She is a passionate and visionary education leader with over 2 decades of experience in transforming teaching and learning, from early days as a substitute teacher in Miami to her current role as a principal at Clarion School in Dubai. She has dedicated her career to empowering both educators and students. She discovered her calling in gifted education, designing programs that inspire curiosity, creativity, and deep learning. So her leadership journey has since spanned curriculum design, teacher coaching, and professional development. She is always driven by the belief that when a teacher strive, students succeed. She continues to advocate for future-ready education that prepares students not just for classrooms, but of course for life. Please, we're honored to have her with us for today. Please join me in welcoming Miss Blanca. How are you, Miss Blanca? How's everything? Pleased to meet you.
Very nice to be here today. Thank you so much for having me in the webinar. I'm so excited to be able to share and engage in these conversations, and I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Perfect, perfect. Just a quick question that's related to what I was mentioning earlier, Ms. Blanca. Given your experience and position as a school principal, what would you say a one word for you, one word that defines relevant teaching skills today?
Ooh, adaptability.
That's a very good one.
Adaptability, you as an educator today, whether it's a new person entering the field or whether it's a veteran, you need to be consistent in engaging in learning new instructional practices, keeping up with the times, and then being willing to take that knowledge, apply it in the classroom, because what we are doing and how we are teaching today is very different than we did many years back.
Definitely, and definitely the change education. The only thing that's happening right now in education is change. Change is happening. A lot of change is happening, and being adaptable to those change is one of the key things to succeed in the education. And I totally agree with you on that. Thank you so much, Miss Blanca. Now moving ahead, our next panel is going to be Dr. Andrew. So our panel is a seasoned international school leader whose career spans over 35 years in 5 different countries. So he has led schools across Asia and the Middle East with a strong focus on student-centered learning, intercultural understanding, and educational innovation. His global perspective combined with a deep belief in empowering both students and educators makes him a powerful voice in today's conversation on the future of education. Let us welcome Dr. Andrew. It's a pleasure to have you again with us this evening. How's everything, Dr. Andrew? How are you? Hello, hello.
Oh, good. It was a very productive day today. I like that. Somebody in the chat mentioned productive. I always like to feel productive, even though sometimes I go out at the end of the day and think, what did I get done? But I did talk to a lot of people today, and it was a good day. So part of my job is just that.
Perfect, perfect. And with that said, just a question to you as well, Dr. Andrew. You've worked across different international schools and multiple countries, right? So when we talk about relevant teaching skills, what does that mean in the international perspective?
Oh my goodness. What it comes down to me is really, I mean, I think the biggest skill that I would love for all of the educators I work with to sort of upgrade in their world is not, learning tech, not picking up, classroom strategies. I think it's really about mindset. It's about
Mm,
being ready to be adaptable, as Blanca noted, but putting on that growth mindset and that open-mindedness and willingness to change is, I think, they're really the big part of what new learning is all about. Seeing things from different perspectives and moving your career forward.
Mhm.
perfect, perfect. And that definitely relates to the adaptability. You have to have that mindset to always learn new things, and that is part of being adaptable, right? Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Let us welcome our last panelist. She is currently our esteemed academic director of International Teachers University, whose extensive experience in the education sector is matched only by her unwavering commitment to academic excellence. Her distinguished career positions her as an invaluable mentor and guide for our teachers. Please help me in welcoming Miss Loulou. Professor Loulou, how are you? Hey,
I'm
how's
very
everything?
good. I'm good. I'm good, San. I'm very excited about the conversation today. Thank you.
Perfect, perfect. Now, Ms. Lu, from your perspective as a teacher trainer, right? What does relevant teaching skills today mean for you?
Yeah, and adding on the adaptability, like Blanca and Andrew said, and the open mindset for growing and learning. I think we might say that, but it's not easy. We need, because, it feels sometimes that we're in a trial and error. We're trying things and we're exploring. Um, we there is a lot happening, as you mentioned. There's a lot of changes in the education field. We have to have this open mindset. We have to be adaptable, but we have to know that it's not easy. Maybe adding to that is understanding that it is a process, and it's a process of growth, and that the teachers need to build on their knowledge through that, not losing the connection with their students, not losing the connection with the core of what we do as teachers, right? It's about changing the lives of those students. So I think it's very important to understand our students and stay connected with them throughout all of these changes that are happening around us.
Thank you so much for that. And that's a wonderful perspective again. Not lose sight of the students, not lose sight of the classroom, of like what kind of impact we will make and why we're doing all of this. It's for our students. And
Right, our
that's the
students
biggest
are
thing.
at the core of everything we do.
Perfect, perfect. That's wonderful. Now to turn the question to our audience, you will see kind of like a poll that will pop up on your screen. And this is part of, if you can answer it, this question will be, which skill do you find most challenging when it comes to when it comes to today's classroom? And this is related to earlier, right? Is it about integrating technology and AI effectively? Is it about student engagement? Is it about personalizing lesson planning, or is it about managing diverse learning needs and levels? Right. So which of these skills do you find the most challenging in today's classroom? Um, hmm, interesting, interesting. It's roughly going, yeah, so leaning more towards diverse learning needs and levels, but it's still a bit fluctuating. Again, you can see the poll, or that will be directly on your screen. Okay, we'll give it a few more. Okay, got it. Right, so you can continuously answer that. Great. So most of you, I can see, they have most of you picked about managing diverse learning needs and levels, but other teachers as well. It's a tie. It's literally a tie between the other three. Integrating technology, student engagement, and personalizing your lesson planning. So this is quite interesting to kind of see about. Got it. Now, on that regards, right? So this kind of like tells. Okay, so this kind of like tells me that our teachers here already see where some skill gaps lies. Let us get into the discussion. Let's start the discussion, and I'm sure our panel is eager to answer our burning question. To start us off with, I have a question to throw at you, Dr. Andrew. Right, I'm sure again you have handled multiple teachers throughout your career as a school leader. So but based on your observation, which skills are teachers commonly lacking when entering modern classrooms today?
Well, that's an interesting question. I struggle, sort of nailing down the big one, but for me, I think the example or the vote on the panel was really sort of telling. That personalization piece and being able to differentiate instruction. There's a couple reasons for it, and one of it is sort of the transition from sort of like the idea of knowledge delivery with students, and just sort of like straight, here are the facts, kids, here is the information, I'm delivering content, to you. You are listening or you're engaging with the stuff that I prepared for you and you learn it and that's kind of it and done and dusted. And we all know that that's not helping our students to be prepared for and be future ready. They need to be able to think on their feet. They need to be critical thinkers. They need to be problem solvers. And the way they do that is by practicing and taking risks and learning. And really, as at the end of the day, it's really about them constructing that knowledge through the guidance of the classroom teachers. And I think that that's where we sort of lose our way. And so that shift of focus from delivery to creation and the conversations and the engagement pieces around that with our students is what's going to make the big difference with our kids. But that requires our teachers to understand the processes by which we can guide and help them to build that, and to be able to adapt our instruction for the variety of different levels of students, the talents and gifts that they bring to the table every day in the classrooms, and really to be able to at the same time manage that information, that data, and the tools that we have in front of us. So, again, and I'm going to go back on Blanca. You started us out with a really great word. That adaptability piece is really the key here. Teachers have to be learners along with their students, and they have to construct their own knowledge with them in front of them, modeling that process along the way. Again, the upgrade is not the classroom. The upgrade is not the tech. The upgrade is the mindset. That's where the upgrade needs to happen in the process. And that's why, continual learning opportunities is so important as classroom teachers.
Right. Perfect. Thanks for sharing that. And in relation to this, throwing the question back to Miss Blanca, can you share any kind of like example where, from your experience, where outdated teaching skills has created challenges for teachers or even their students?
I can actually think of two examples right off the top of my head. So the first one is continuing with whole group instruction. So I'm going to piggyback off of what Andy's just shared, which is we need to ensure that teachers have the mindset to move towards meeting the needs of our learners. And that is not through
Mhm,
whole group instruction, one size fits all. It is
mhm,
outdated. I know that this was the way that we taught for many, many years. But the truth of the matter is we need to take in students' learning styles into account, students' cultures into account, have a deep understanding of our own biases, and be able to move within that. And something else that to add to that is a practice that I see that can be detrimental is the avoidance of academic risk taking. So,
Mhm.
not posing questions at a higher level of understanding because we may have a preconceived notion of what a student can and cannot answer. And not posing the question, in not doing that, we are not modeling how to think critically for our students. It encourages, it's important to encourage our students to take those academic risks, to understand that there's a safe space in the classroom for them to express themselves. Even if they're wrong, that's okay. It's about creating that sense of understanding. So that whole group instruction and the avoidance of academic risk taking, I find that is something that keeps us behind.
Right, right. And it definitely that aspect or perspective of it. This is how we were taught, right? The one size fits all kind of thing back when, our generation. But this is not going to work with the current generation, with the current learners. And we need to be, as a teacher, to really keep up with the demands of the classroom. We need to have this kind of mindset. And thank you for sharing that, Miss Blanca. Now, on your side, Professor Loulou, from the master's program perspective, right? What kind of emerging teacher competencies are, we could say, the most in demand right now, given the what what Dr. Andrew and Miss Blanca has mentioned? So, you're muted.
Yeah, I was muted. Okay. So from our perspective, as I mentioned, we have like many of the teachers have the open mindset. They want to learn, they want to grow. But right now, with the abundance of tools around there, with so many things happening, some of these teachers are being confused on maybe where to start from. They want to do everything in the class, you know. Their target is to reach their students. They don't want to do, as Ms. Blanca said, they don't want to do one size fits all, but they end up confused because they're trying so many things and they're doing so many things in the classroom. They're overwhelmed with, they have less time because they are overwhelmed with the activities. They want to use all the AI tools that are there. You know, it feels like mostly maybe the world is overwhelmed with all the tools, all the activities, all the strategies, all the things, and the curriculum that they have to finish in a certain time. So I think that's where they are struggling most, and that's where throughout the program we are trying to. The program is designed in a way where we set confidence in those teachers. We bring them to the basics of pedagogy, of understanding their children, understanding their needs, in which level are they, what's happening in their life, understanding the environment that they are in, their background, and all of that, putting all the basics of pedagogy together so they stand on solid ground and they become relaxed and they enjoy teaching again.
You're right, right. I can imagine how much rattling that is when it comes to your brain. Oh, you have to do this, you have to do that, and as a teacher, doing multiple things at once, you want to just make it a lot easier for yourself. You know what? This is what I'll do for all of my class, but that will not work. That definitely will not work.
Right.
And taking the easy
And
way
one
out
major
is
challenge
definitely.
I think that has happened recently is also the attention span of the students, because now they are used to their devices and for the continuous gratification from the scrolling and all of that. So I think the teacher's job has become a bit more challenging, and they're becoming overwhelmed because of that.
Right. Anything else to add on this, Dr. Andrew, on your side, Miss Blanca?
Honestly,
We can start
I
with,
think that
yeah.
that covers quite a bit of it, specifically the attention. I do want to go back to that. We see that more and more daily, where they are doom scrolling. They're so used to
Oof.
dopamine mining that that
Yeah.
attention piece, it can't be there's a really big value to that. It's for some things it is bringing up a lot of difficulty in a classroom where it would be very easy to be able to redirect a student. Now we're finding it much more difficult because we're having to do it numerous times. So,
I mean, it feels to me like what we're describing is a change in an ecosystem that has been in transition for more than a decade. And this ecosystem of electronics, I like that dopamine mining. I haven't heard that one for a while, and I really do like that term. I have to put that back in my pocket and carry it around. But and the other piece here is our realization that social emotional health and learning also drives so much of our student success. And so it's just, we're just asking a lot. Well, it's more, but it's also different. Significantly different than it was years ago. And that difference drives a lot of what we have to do as school leaders to make sure that our teachers are well prepared.
Yeah, right. And there's that aspect as well. Thank you so much for those wonderful um perspectives. Doom scrolling is a big thing for for generation for our generation that are coming up. Right. So the knowing these gaps, knowing where the problem lies, it gives us direction, right? But what we do, right, with that gap determines our impact. It defines our impact. So let's now shift our focus on how teachers can develop real world skills that drive engagement, creativity, and then results in the classroom. So throwing the question to you, Miss Loulou, if a teacher wants to upskill immediately, right, which would you say the top 2 or 3 competencies would make the biggest difference when it comes to their classroom or when it comes to classroom?
Okay, if they want to start immediately, maybe one major thing is understanding their students, understanding their development level, starting from the age, what age they are, their cultural background, their life circumstances, all of these, understanding preferences of those kids. Once you know the student well, you can build a structure that helps you reach out to them. That's a major thing. And we all know that a big part of a teacher's role is connecting with the students. If you don't have connection with your students, then no learning can happen no matter what you do. So the first thing is building connection, understanding your students. That's one. Another point, I don't want to say again adaptability and that. Another important maybe I would say in these times with all the technology and the resources that we have around is planning for higher order thinking, because I think these days, let's say with technology and all of these things are there. Again, of course, our role is not about memory anymore. We are not there so that we give information or for our students to memorize information. I think that skill is being lost because we all have our devices ready over there. I think the real skill that we need to develop in our students is having this abundance of knowledge around us. How do I use that in the most efficient way where I'm able to analyze it and use it effectively, maybe. So it's about using developing higher order thinking skills in the students. That's what the focus should be.
Perfect. So you mentioned understanding the students because, as you know, one of the key to teaching is connecting with students. Without connection with students, what are we even doing, right? And that definitely I agree on that. And also as you mentioned, planning for higher order thinking. Now, thank you so much for that perspective. Now, on your side, Dr. Andrew, right? How can teachers make abstract skills, like say for example, creativity, critical thinking, or like emotional intelligence, tangible when it comes to their daily lessons?
I always say around here, we need to stop asking if our students can do it. That's not the right question. The correct question in my mind is, how can I see this skill or concept in action? What does it look like when we're activating that in a student's mind and in the student's hands? And in what ways can I draw examples of that out of them? This makes it turns the lessons and it turns the activities into production opportunities. And going back to my former answer, we need to move from content delivery to content construction. And part of that process is through the creation of knowledge or creation of product, and driving our students toward that. So with that kind of a question, all of a sudden then a teacher starts thinking about ways that they can drive student creativity, given some guidelines and some opportunities to think in different ways. The students' creativity will begin to be nurtured and blossom. We need to push our students to provide us with clear and credible answers and evidence for the things that they conduct and create in a time frame where every piece of knowledge can be drawn from a device. They need to be able to understand the content that they are now devouring and is being fed very, very rapidly, but then being able to synthesize that and apply it in a space and understand that claim or that content that they have consumed is maybe they need to understand whether it's correct or it's incorrect, whether there's some, basis to that. And this goes down to, our youngest learners even, looking at, the simplest skills can be put into this kind of a space. And finally, and again, I think this is really important. We need to give our students opportunities to interact with each other and with us, developing that frontal lobe executive function piece, and also their emotional intelligence. That all these things lead to independence of emotion, independence of thought, independence of a learning process, which is going to make them future ready as they leave our classrooms.
Right. Perfect. And that is a very deep thing to think about, because as teachers, to elicit this kinds of I would say results to our students, you have to have a deep understanding of what that concept is. Not just asking them, "Oh, are you creative? Yes or no?" It's about, seeing whether or not that what their creativity is to your students, and eliciting those kinds of response. And that's that's something new I learned today, I would say. Thank you so much for that. Now, on your side, Miss Blanca, given what you have seen when it comes to your practice, right? What practical exercises or classroom routines you have witnessed your teachers can like implement to stay ahead of the changes that are coming?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones, honestly, to again go back to something that Lulu mentioned, are well-being practices being put into place, because we need to ensure as educators that those connections with children are made, and that they are tangible to the children, because if they feel that there is an adult that is invested in their progress and in everything having to do with them, they will rise to the occasion when asked to do so. It really does empower our learners to create, to take ownership of their learning. So that's one. The use of collaborative strategies. That's another piece. I think that that's one of the most vital pieces, is helping our teachers understand that although they are the sage on the stage, right? We're moving away from that role into more of a facilitator role, so that the environment becomes student-centered, so that the students are able to work off of that agency, develop ownership over their learning. And that empowerment is going to really prepare them so much more for what the real world has open to them, rather than just being a passive learner, which was, again, going back to that traditional teaching, whole group instruction, you nod your head at the right places, you say yes and no, and you take a test and you pass. And this, moving into collaboration, that is how we work today. We teachers don't work in silos anymore. We don't. Administrators don't. Andy and I speak, and we share information as principals, and that is how you make your practice better. So sharing that and teaching children those skills, I think, are things that teachers are doing today and benefit from doing.
Got it. Got it. I can see you were reacting on that, Dr. After. Anything you would like to add on that conversation?
Well, the adults in a school are the best and most important models for student learning. The environments, Roland Barthes, my old sage advisor from Harvard University, always said, that the health and the proficiency, and that was not his words, I'm paraphrasing, but of the adult relationships inside of a school are directly connected to student success. And I think that we as educators have learned and figured out that when we work together, many hands not only make light work, but better work. We're better than the sum of our parts.
Perfect. Perfect. Wonderful. Anything to add on your side, Musilu, before we move on this?
I think you've put it in a beautiful way. It's super important how in many cases, the adults that kids see in school, they are the only ones that they really trust, and they are the real role models in their lives. So the role of the teacher is super important. Sometimes we get used to it because that's what we do on a daily basis. We don't realize the amount of impact we have around us on those little minds around us. So I'll just you know say again that's the most important role that we have.
Perfect, perfect, wonderful. Thank you for all of your perspectives. Now, again, for our audience, please feel free to use the chat. If you would like to have to mention something or anything you would like to add to the conversation, we'll be reading that later down the line as well. Or if you have any question regarding anything that is being discussed, please do write it, and we'll go through that again during our portion later down the line. But to move on from our topic, right? We've talked about building practical skills like as a foundation. But let's be honest, today's classrooms runs more than on good teaching, right? They run on technology. And as we have discussed earlier, right? So next, let's dive into how teachers can use new tools and AI without feeling overwhelmed. Right. So, Ms. Lulu, going to you, right? What's a common mistake teachers make when learning new technology? And how can that be avoided?
Right. Maybe I'll go back to the one point that is right now teachers feel there's a lot of technology available for me, so I want to try it all, I want to do it all, I want to use it all. So that's when we get overwhelmed and uh, maybe it causes a lot of waste of time and energy because we are doing so many things. I would say the right approach is that's where strong pedagogy helps, and we are going to the basics, understanding what are the main objectives of my lesson, what are the things that I want to achieve, and then slowly moving, let's say, from the starter, saying, okay, this, I want an engaging starter. How can I make it a bit engaging with technology, and then search for the tool that would help me do that, rather than going through the tools route to make sure that I'm using tools in my classroom. Starting from the basics and going, and sometimes I might choose one tool throughout the whole lesson and using it in different ways every time in the lesson, and that would be and that will make a super class for me. Right. So it's about, I think right now, many teachers are thinking the best way is to use as much as I can and use it all and do it all, rather than starting from the basics, starting from pedagogy, starting from my main objective of my lesson.
Got it. So you mean to say it's not about, okay, these are the tools that I can use. I'll use it on my classroom and see how I can use it on my classroom. But it's these are the problems of my classroom. How can I use the tools I have to it's like
Yeah, not
moving
necessary
like this, not to,
problems, right? Right.
yeah, right, right,
I need to deliver this class. I need to make sure my students reach those outcomes. What is the best way for
right,
them to reach those outcomes? And how
right.
can tools help me in that to make it more engaging, to make it more time efficient? Then, all of these come in as byproducts of that.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense because looking at how many technology you can use, how many AI tools you can use in teaching, it does tend to get overwhelming. And I'm sure our teachers can agree with you on that. Now on that case, Miss Blanca, can you give us kind of like an example of a simple AI or either any technology tools that improve learning without increasing teachers' workload?
So one tool that we have been utilizing, I want to say for 2 years now, actually, is Magic School AI. And Magic
Mm,
School AI, we have found has multiple uses across our campus. So one of our teachers uses it for differentiation. It helps generate reading passages at different levels of complexity. So that's one way. Another way that it's being used is for rubrics, creation of rubrics. I know many of the teachers that are probably on the call struggle with creating rubrics for projects, and Magic School AI is one of those tools that makes it very easy to create a rubric. We typically go back and moderate it and check it, right? Because there could still be issues and errors and so forth, but that's another way. I've seen it used for lesson planning and idea generation, going into quizzes, and helping with how to scaffold the questions a certain way. Teachers will enter what are the parameters, which are the standards that they're using, and it goes ahead and changes the complexity of those questions. And then the teachers at our school change the weight that is given for those questions. So that's one tool, multiple uses, and it has been, we've been using it successfully for 2 years now. So we really like Magic School AI.
Perfect, perfect. And what's kind of like the impact when it comes to the classroom itself? And is it something I'm just interested, what was the impact when it comes to the school in general of
Well,
this
first
AI?
of all, it eliminates a lot of the busyness that
Mm,
falls on teachers' plates. And I think that all of us have spoken about it at one point or another. There is
mm,
so much personalization of learning. We're one of the schools that works very hard on personalizing learning. This tool is helping cut back the amount of time that it takes to do that when it comes to differentiation, when it comes to how are we measuring the differentiation, what are the types of activities that we're providing
mm,
our students, what are the ensuring that the quality of the activities is still there is what our teachers
mm,
are doing, and our SLT and MLT, but really eliminating extra steps that used to be done by a teacher. So now the teacher becomes more of a facilitator within the AI tool, but is not doing that work themselves.
Right, right. So it's a great example, as you mentioned. The way you describe it is definitely a great example of how this AI, this tool can really decrease the workload of a teacher. And thank you for sharing that on like a first-hand experience, Miss Blanca. Now moving ahead on Dr. Andrew, talking about AI, talking about tech, how should teachers decide which tech is worth integrating and which is just a distraction? Which one is just a distraction?
Yeah, well, number one, I mean, let's just keep it real here. If the tool is not saving you or and Blanca's example on Magic School is a great one. If it's not saving the teacher time
Mhm.
or making student learning more efficient or deepening learning, it's called entertainment.
True.
True.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I learned things off of Instagram. I caught myself doom scrolling this morning at 6 a.m. And then I found something interesting and I went off and I clicked the link and I went off and I was no longer an Instagram. Instagram's an entertainment center. It's a dopamine mine. Let's just keep it real. If you're a classroom teacher, I encourage people to use a sort of a 3-question test to make sure that the tool is appropriate. One is, does it have a clear purpose? Is it to address a learning need, a learning problem, or is it just sort of flashy and cool and sort of, just out there? A couple people, by the way, in my faculty, Blanca, complained about the purple color on Magic School. They don't like the purple color. And I'm like, good. I'm glad you find it's ugly. Because you know what? It's not about the color, folks. It's about the content. What does it deliver for you? Second part is pedagogy. Does it align with how your students need to gain information and create information? So is there a pathway to use it in some sort of a teaching methodology? And then the last part is it actually usable? Is there a practicality to it? We don't have the luxury of time to spend sort of just winding your way through millions of pathways to figure out how to use some of these tools. Our teachers are busy. They are talented at engaging kids. And we need to make sure that they have a toolbox that's amply supplied so they can address the multiple needs of that. So there's a element of practicality to that. So, you know, some of your teachers are going to be out there on the cutting edge, the bleeding edge of learning, and they're going to be willing to take on some of the more difficult and complex tools that are out there and help us move forward. These are the folks who are not going to be playing in the preset skill tools that are within Magic School. They're going to be out writing their own prompts. They're going to be the ones out creating routine prompts that they can use with kids over and over again. But the vast majority of our teachers are sort of the second tier of adopters in that process. And so what they're looking for is a foundational tool, something they can use every day that's going to help them to move their instruction forward, but also access some of those kids that maybe were a little put off or a little bit faster learners and need acceleration. You know, we need to really start thinking about how we can use these tools to find those different and multiple pathways that are necessary and needed in those classrooms. And you know, I was looking at a tool the other day, and you know, I'm starting to play with it, and I'm a you know, a early adopter. I've always been that way as a tech person, but you have to realize, and I'm sitting there realizing like, this is an amazing tool because this is a tool that's AI driven that's going to help us to work better together. It's essentially an AI coach for a collaborative team. Wow, fantastic. Look at all this stuff. And I started showing a couple of my colleagues here work this, and they're like, Andy, geeking out again, man. Just too much. We can't do that right now. We just can't do that right now. And it was just a gentle reminder. And number one, I love my team because they can tell me stuff like that and I'm not insulted. But number two, that as an early adopter, I jump into these things and get super enthusiastic about them, not realizing that I have a different perspective. And so, you know, I think it's really important for us to realize that those three P's, purpose, pedagogy, and practicality, are a really important piece on that whole making a choice thing for tech.
Perfect. And that's something that our teachers should, who our audience should write on their notes. You know, these three things. That's have a clear purpose, this align with your students, and create information. And is it actually practical to use? These three things are very important. Thank you so much for sharing that. Moving ahead, again, for our teachers, there's really a lot to consider. A lot of things when it comes to their field, a lot of things are changing rapidly. So, you know, when it comes to strategies for professional growth, Ms. Loulou, what's one concrete action a teacher can take this week to start closing this skills gap?
The first thing I think we started discussing was adaptability and the mindset. So I think we'll go back to that where we say as teachers, we should be open to learning, specifically in this fast changing world. In order for us, I tell the team, it's not like we have to keep pace. We have to keep running because things are moving so fast. You can't walk these days. You have to always be moving faster and faster. So the first advice would be reflect. Take a minute, take some time, and reflect on your practice. Reflect on your position right now. Are you in a school where is this the school that you want to be in? Is this are you spending the days the way you want them to be? Are you enjoying your teaching or not? Have those questions and then identify the areas that you need to work on that would help you. If you're happy, that's great, but then what can you do so that you're happier or that you can achieve more or that you are more productive in your classroom? What are the things that you can do that help you reach there? And if you feel like I can do better than this, you feel you're stuck somewhere, or you feel something is not right, again, reflect, identify the gap, identify what is the thing that you can't do. If you feel like you don't even know what's wrong, you don't know what is it that you have to do, seek help. It's okay. Just ask around. Maybe ask your leader at school, ask colleagues. Look, the internet is open for everyone. The online world is so big right now. Look for some resources that would help you. As an ITU university, from ITU University's perspective, I would definitely say book a session with one of our advisors. They would help you on putting your finger on the right thing, and they will guide you on what would work better for you. Be open to learning and start learning. And the thing is, it's only one step, maybe one step at a time, take one step at a time. But if I want to summarize what I've just said, take a pause, reflect, seek help, I don't want to call it as help in such of help, but have other opinions, open conversations with educators around you, maybe reach out to people on LinkedIn and ask questions, get involved in the education field, and take your next step into what is once you start getting clear on what is it that you want next, set a goal for yourself and take the action towards that goal.
Perfect. And in that, I want to actually take this opportunity to acknowledge our audience today. That's actually one of the first step, as part of your reflection, to join these types of conversation, these types of
Right,
talks, these types
definitely.
of right. And it shows that you know that there is something missing, but you join this conversation to know what that is, what is going on, right? And to take what you will hear or learn out of these conversations and use that to as part of your reflection later down the line, in this coming week or in this coming days, right? Thank you so much. That was very beautifully put, Miss Lulu. Perfect. Moving ahead towards you, Miss Blanca, talking about resources and courses or communities or programs, which are these have you seen like the biggest difference for teachers who are trying to stay relevant?
One of the programs, it's actually a book, so culturally responsive teaching, especially in an international setting, is essential. Understanding how culture shapes children, students, and teachers, educators, everyone in your building, having that as a skill is something that will elevate any teaching and learning to the next level. Why? Because you are able to connect better with your students when you're differentiating instruction. You have a better understanding of how to reach the learner, and you may do so through culture. I've seen an increase of courses at the university level where they are now looking at culturally responsive teaching. I've seen it embedded. It was actually embedded when I was going through my second master's program as part of another course. But it is something that I feel that really helps change the perspective that teachers have. And it helps you as a teacher look within yourself and identify certain biases where you might take it for granted that children are thinking in a particular way, or adults, right? Whatever the case is, whoever you're teaching. And it allows you then to identify that, address that, and move into a different frame of mind. And I feel that we are really beginning to reach learners in a different way when they see I may not look like you, I may not sound like you, my accent may be different, I may not be from where you are, but I am sharing in this common human experience with you. I am connecting with you. And as a child, as a student, you feel seen, you feel heard, and you feel validated. So that one for
Yeah.
me, I think is at the top of my list.
That's wonderful. Culture is a big thing, especially for international teachers. And for those teachers who are aiming to become international teachers, this is one of the biggest thing, right? They come into let's take Dubai for example, wherein it's a melting pot of different cultures, and classroom reflects the same thing, and then the classroom of different schools reflect the same thing, and being able to handle different cultures, and knowing how to approach that is not just beautiful, but it will help your teaching, as you beautifully put it, Ms. Blanca. Thank you so much for that. Perfect. Now to you, Dr. Andrew. This is for our last question. Given your educational leadership background, right, how will teachers know they're improving, along with keeping up pace with modern classroom demands?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna agree loudly with Loulou about the idea of reflection. First of all, reflection is the engine, really, of teacher improvement. I think the difficult point with reflection that I think a lot of educators struggle with is like, what exactly am I reflecting on? And to what depth, and how am I gaining the right kind of information to be a efficient and effective reflector in the process? And so, I heard a couple times from both of my fellow panelists here about engaging others in that process, and we try to set up in our organization some reflective partners that we can ask people to sort of go and watch each other teach, give some feedback. Let's gather and engage and look at metrics that are common between us, whether that be student learning with common shared students, or observational data, student engagement. Student feedback is a very powerful piece of data for teacher feedback and teacher reflection. That idea of peer observation, that dialogue and that space with dialogue really makes a difference. And the other pieces, and now that we have these amazing technologies, these things can help us with this. Looking at our lesson patterns, our lesson designs, the way we are creating and looking at our units, in our early years program, or with our PYP and my school. Our diploma programs, all these programs have common sets of curricula they set out, and then across the organizations we have those. And I did a little demo with some teachers around looking at lesson design through the eyes of AI, where a teacher took lessons from the first part of the year, the middle part of the year, the third part of the year, and the fourth part of the year, basically from the 4 quarters of an academic year, loaded those into AI and said, look at the analysis of these lessons over the course of an academic year and provide me feedback on the activity strategies and assessments that I was providing. And that machine will look at that information very accurately and brutally honestly and say, they're all about the same, or there's a natural progression here, or you could have thought about these other particular strategies along the way. And so, you start thinking about the power of the machine and how that will and drive reflection for my teachers. And that was a fun activity, by the way, for teachers to do, because they just went and grabbed samples of unit plans or lesson plans that they had and started making the machine give them analysis, which then launched them into new ideas. It helped develop them to develop new and creative lessons, and then they started sharing those around the table with the other teachers in the room. Guess what? 1 hour, and I believe we made more progress on self-reflection in 1 single hour with the help of that machine. And so, I mean, we just kind of got to think about, like, this machine is really great at analyzing and taking in data. So why not use that to help, help that? The thought I have down here, though, Jan, is that most future-ready teachers who are ready to move into the next level of their career, are those who, as I say, treat reflection like the engine of improvement. That's the ones that are really going to make the difference for their own careers. And, I think that great programs that are going to push professional development are going to drive teachers to continually self-reflect.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Andrew. And we can take a few questions if like maybe one or two questions from our audience if they have. You can put it on the chat because that's our last question for our panel. So if you have any question for our panel to maybe Miss Blanca, Dr. Andrew, or Professor Loulou regarding anything was discussed regarding the topic that was mentioned, please type it on the chat. We'll give maybe 30 seconds, a few seconds to get your questions in. Other than that, I would like to kind of like take this moment or to ask our panel or our panelists, anyone, if do you have any last thoughts to add regarding the full discussion. Maybe we can start with you, Miss Blanca.
Um, take the risk. I want to go back into what Andrew was saying. We have to work together, take the risk, take the feedback. Student feedback can be brutal. I will tell you that I find that I have improved so much more as an educator in my practice when I ask students to give me feedback. It showed them that I was open and vulnerable, and that what I am asking of them, I am willing to do myself. And placing yourself there, it allows to open an avenue of reflection that you may not have considered previously, because the stakeholder, in this case, the student, is providing that direct feedback. So, take the risk, do the things that you find might be difficult. I loved what Andrew was sharing in regards to the activity that his staff did with, entering unit plans and receiving feedback based on that. If there's a takeaway from all of this, I hope that you do, that, you take those academic risks, you model for your students, and reflect on your practice.
Perfect.
Thank you,
And
John.
on your side, thank you so much, Miss Blanca. And on your side, Dr. Andrew, and the last few things and the last few thoughts that you would like to share.
I think we're at the time point in at least the North American school year, or in the Northern Hemisphere school year, excuse me, that I think that the routines in the classrooms become a little tired, a little worn out. Teachers start looking toward that holiday coming up in the next month or so. And I note a little kind of some rough edges, and I think that's the most important time to sort of take a step back and take a deep breath and realize that sometimes progress is taken with little tiny steps, and sometimes they're big giant steps. But day in and day out, if they take the time to reflect also on those pieces of progress, that becomes a motivating factor. And the next day is going to be a little bit better if you do that. And so I do encourage educators out there to take some perspective and realize that you do a really hard job every day, and every day you make progress. And you can name those off probably more than you have fingers and toes, and really celebrate your successes along the way.
Perfect. Wonderful. And anything else or last thoughts on your side, Miss Dulu, regarding our topic, regarding our conversation?
I want to start by thanking our guests today. It was really an interesting conversation. I think for me, it was very enriching. I hope all the teachers that were present with us today found that. I find it amazing that they are still with us after, it's been more than an hour and it's the end of the day. I know we all had long days and it's been tiring. So for those teachers who are still with us, you are here. It means you are adaptable. You have this open mindset. So take the next step, learn more, and find out what is the set the goal for yourself and find out what is the next step for that. If you want to discuss with anyone, International Teachers University is there. You can book a session with any of our advisors to maybe help you in that reflection stage and identifying the goal and helping you into stepping that. And I want to thank them for being here and listening to us. Special thanks to Miss Blanca for her insights. It was really enriching, and of course for Dr. Andrew and for you, Jan. It was a fun session.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Miss Lou, Miss Blanca, Dr. Andrew. Thank you so much for our audience, wonderful audience, for joining us on this discussion. I can see there's no question, so let's go through it. I know it has been a self-reflective discussion, and we are all, pumped to go through. And again, we've talked about multiple things. We talked about evolving skill sets of today's teachers, tackled the realities of integrating AI and technology, and shared like practical strategies for making real impact in the classroom. And again, huge thank you to our panelists, Dr. Andrew, Miss Blanca, Miss Loulou, for their insights, authenticity, inspiration. And on behalf of the organizing committee, we're so grateful for the ideas and energies you all shared with us for today. You've challenged us to think differently, to keep shaping the future of learning one classroom at a time. Thank you so much again for our panelists and for our audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so for those who will be staying, again, thank you for joining us on this discussion. Got it. And for those who will be saying, again, well, thank you for our wonderful audience. I know it has been a self-reflective discussion. I would like to take like 5 minutes of your time before we end the call to kind of like discuss what Miss Lulu has mentioned earlier regarding the International Teachers University and how its masters in education kind of like help you out on this venture. And again, if you stay right at the end, I'll kind of like give you a proper guide through. So, just as we've heard and from Ms. Lulu, right, there's multiple things that you have to focus on to stay relevant when it comes to your career as a teacher, and to take programs that can initiate this self-reflection on your side. So ITU is actually ITU's Masters in Education program offers the world's most I would say first program tackling give me a second, sorry. Yeah, tackling like built upon international standards. All right. The Masters in Education, a quick glimpse tells us this is a 12-month program delivered online and is considered as the first Masters in Education program built upon international standards, and is focused on supporting teachers' advancements, preparing teachers for future challenges, and it provides freedom and balance when it comes to further studies. The learning experience, you will have a hybrid learning mode, building up this skill evidence portfolio, applying what you learn to real life scenarios, and initiating that self-reflection on your side. There are scholarships available for our teachers. So if you'd like to kind of like know more about the program, again, there's a link on the chat that you can schedule a call with our team, with our advisor to help you and guide you regarding that